Hello there, Uncle Welsh back again. Today is just going to be, as you can probably tell from the title of the video, just a sort of rant slash conversation. And to be honest, I'm going to begin today with something else. Due to money issues, I can't really do, that higher quality videos, but I could see if I can find somewhere that I can get a decent camera just to do some recordings, get my ugly mug out there from time to time. And I can start making some far more higher quality videos at some point, and I can start probably getting this channel going in a limited fashion. Yeah, I'm not going to probably do Patreon or anything just yet, but I've got a new job, so hopefully once I get into a routine I can, fit a few things in and start getting some more interesting stuff done. I could probably, expand a bit, like wandering through my limited fan base here. What would you be interested in watching me do? Would you like at some point some live streams at certain times? So you join in the chat, all this kind of thing. And what time would be best for most of my viewers, depending on where you're all from. And see if I can reach out to any other YouTubers perhaps. Like Mr. Sensible maybe, and Creaky Blinder, or Simon Dan, even if they're interested in having a tiny YouTuber like me join in on their thing. Obviously I understand that it'll have to be a tad more professional when joining in on their videos if they want me, because I've done it before. I did it with Simon, with Strike, God rest his soul. When Strike used to do the every Friday night movie night, so to speak. But unfortunately for me, those took place at 5 o'clock in the morning for me, and I had to be at work, a few hours later. So I had to be at work at about 2 p.m. So I have no idea what this software thing in front of me is doing at this present minute. It's just zooming in and zooming out. But hey, I thought I would have a bit of fun with Eyes on Exoplanet. It's called. This seems to got like lots of nice things on it. But it's something interesting to watch whilst I'm babbling on here, and some interesting information on the side there for everyone to read if you can actually get reading it to it as well. I was going to have the live stream video up of the ISS, but unfortunately, if that's the entire video, I'll probably get copyrighted for that, and probably the video wouldn't be able to reach that many people. But my sort of rant today is purely on the basis of what I think of flat Earth is at this present minute. I know I've probably talked about this before. But it hasn't really improved. It really hasn't. Sort of my opinion on many of them on Twitter, most of them are just trolls, as far as I'm concerned. And let's just put it this way: even if there's 1 million people out there that believe the Earth is flat, that's not a big number in the grand scheme of things. So it's not that much of a problem. And in terms of the flat Earth activists, the ones that actively go out and do stuff, they're only in their hundreds. They're not really going to achieve anything. And we can explain stuff to them time and time again on why what they're doing doesn't actually matter. But, hey. I mean, where I'm going to start with is, like, let's say Twitter, for example, right? They are such keyboard warriors on Twitter. It is unreal. And it's the fact that they love to kiss each other's backside. From one flat earth to another, they absolutely love kissing each other's backsides. And like, oh yeah, clap, clap, like, oh, well done, that's such amazing proof of flat earth. It's amazing. Oh, let's mirror and share. I mean, for example, what was on the thing the other day? Oh yeah, basically, like when they complain about the size of the Earth in the background in correlation to the moon. So like it's small when they're on the moon, but when we have a picture of the moon in front of the Earth is huge, and so that's what it should look like. Even though if you learn photography in field of view, that it perfectly stands out. And I posted, I'm not sure, was it Mark Sargent's thing or was it somebody else's? I can't remember what it was, but one flat earther did, photography tests and found out that the actual sizes of the planet of Earth in the background actually matched up, depending on what field of view and distance and all this kind of thing you use. But no, I posted the fact that what you're seeing isn't actually strange. It actually stands out. The amount of flat earthers who are just like hitting that like button, oh well done, oh this is amazing. I'm like, oh good grief, do you people not listen? Again, like this other thing is making the rounds on Twitter, which I thought was debunked ages ago, but this is flat earthers, they just don't listen. When an astronaut does like a flip, and the astronaut sitting next to him tries to grab his t-shirt to like steady him for a second, and whilst doing so, his little finger sort of hooks into the other astronaut's pocket, and pulls him a little bit. But no, I've gone through loads of flat earthers again that seem to think that that's adamant proof, proof of the fact that the astronauts grabbed a wire. Even though I literally zoomed in, circled around the area of the pocket that clearly shows his little finger hooking in, no. And the more times I showed them that, the more angrier they seemed to get. He was like, "Oh, you're just blind, man. You can't see it." And the guy drew like a line down to signify that it's the CGI hidden wire and all this kind of crap, and then got really angry and then blocked me. I was like, "You can see it right there, literally right there." And I posted that to many of the flat earthers, and they're like, "Well, you're blind, man." I'm like, "Oh, good grief." The thing is about flat earthers, they only want to see what they want to see. That's the thing. You could provide them, like, the thing, they ask for proof, you give them proof, and they just, no, it's not good enough. I'm like, ugh. I know they say that about us, where they say that, we give that they give us proof of flat earth, the, water experiments, light experiments, that guy on ice that states that, what was it, he had 3 lights on over a frozen lake bed, and he could see the lights that were like a couple of feet off the ground. You could see those lights at the height of about, at a distance of about 10 miles, right? But, like, D. Marble shared the hell out of this, and he said, "Oh, you have to be a shill or an agent to like deny this." However, if you did a bit of research, the lake in question, that the surface level of that lake was about 860 feet above sea level. So all of those calculations with Earth Curve Calculator and all that kind of stuff goes straight out the window, because it just doesn't add up at that height. Everything's different. Oh god, that looks really cool. Oh, it's quite a detailed model, isn't it? But you know what I mean? Is that all those calculations then about like how much of the light should be hidden, and so on and so forth, is, completely irrelevant. And I love the fact that you mention refraction to them, and they snigger and go, "Nah," but they love to use it when they think it helps them, when they think it supports their claims. But when it's used against them, they ignore it and ridicule it, saying, "Oh, it's just magic, you're just using that to explain away stuff." Yeah, but refraction's a thing, whether you like it or not. And that's the concept. Science works, whether you like it or not. And some flat earthers have the barefaced cheek to tell me like, "Oh, you're holding back society." I was like, what? You're claiming that basically that our human attempts of exploring the endless expanse of space is holding back humanity, and yet you think we live under a dome that we can't pass, and we're surrounded by the a wall of ice that we somehow can't pass, and yet somehow that's fine. But yet I'm holding back humanity by claiming that the Earth's a sphere and that we can explore space. All right, sure. Yeah. Keep smoking what you're smoking, dude. Honestly, you know, it's like D Marble. You know, I'm done with the guy. When I first came across him, I thought he seemed like a genuine dude. I thought he'd be really open to conversation. I thought he'd be really understanding and take quite a level-headed approach to this. Well, that's what I thought. But as videos gone on, and the more and more subscribers he's got, the more and more arrogant he's become. And it's become a major problem. And it's just, he cannot be reasoned with, because he's so arrogant and stuck up his own backside. He'll always bring up, like, I had a flat earther again on Twitter, like, bring up that, you know, I follow like 1,000 people on Twitter, and yet only about 95 people follow me. To be honest with you, I'm quite fucking chuffed 95 people follow me. You know, I'm not particularly bothered about, you know, Twitter followers. That's not why I'm on Twitter. I mainly go on Twitter to kind of see what other people are doing. Not what I'm saying. You know, I'll say my word. If they want to follow me, follow me. If you want to follow me, fine. Ooh, and that's actually an interesting point. Subphotonic, you know, the crazy ginger dude that believes in the mud flood and the titans and the forest and all this kind of stuff. His channel's been taken down. Very interesting. You know, I had a YouTube. He actually mentioned my name on my channel, and he's a guy who actually believes what Subphotonics believes, that basically the guy looks at sedimentary rock. You know, the lines, I think they're called fractums, and he believes that's evidence of brick mortar, which makes no bloody sense. It's sedimentary, being left through weathering, all this kind of stuff. So basically, he told me, oh, time is not a good explanation for phenomenon. I'm like, it's a perfect explanation for many aspects of nature and phenomenon. He's only calling it a phenomenon because he chose to discard the scientific understanding of it and just increase his own. And they're all like people that believe that the Grand Canyon was man-made or was a result of some sort of catastrophic solar event that melted all the rock, even though if such a solar event did happen, that would have probably killed the entire population of the planet at the time. But we'll gloss over that. You know, and it's just like on Twitter at the minute again. You're going back to that, and you have sort of arguments. I had a woman who still brought up, oh, look up perspective, man. Look up perspective. The light rays point towards the sun. I'm like, oh, for good grief. The irony is, she's talking about perspective, and yet it's perspective that allows us to see what we see, and it's not what she thinks. And then she blocked me. Like one chap now about, I think it was that astronaut with the finger hooking in the pocket. He then basically told him, oh, you've got 10 seconds to read this. I got better stuff to do with my time than actual educate. Like he's going to educate me with the crap that he knows. And how stupid I am, how much of a sheep I am, and blah, 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 blah. And then blocked me. They all claim that, like, oh, I just parrot science. Yeah, but I talk about the established science, which is the best understanding of reality that we have, that has basically been improved and expanded upon over the course of 3,000 years. Our understanding of physics and biology and all this kind of stuff has come together to understand our reality. And they have the barefaced cheek to tell me that I'm parroting. And not the fact that they merely parrot what's trending in the flat earth community at the time. Like, let's say, the second law of thermodynamics, for example. No flat earther even knew the existence of the second law of thermodynamics until a flat earther brought it up. And now every flat earther seems to talk about it. like Nathan Oakley and all this kind of stuff, even though he doesn't seem to understand. And I'm not debating Nathan Oakley. That guy can get effed as far as I'm concerned. The guy's probably a con artist, but if he is being genuine, he's the most egregiously disgusting human being I've ever come across. They always talk about, you can't have air pressure next to a vacuum. Yes, but Earth's air pressure doesn't just end like a fucking wall, excuse my language. It doesn't end like a fine line. It's incredibly gradual over the course of they're still at about the height of the ISS. They do say there's still microparticles of air that high. It's extremely gradual. And I don't understand, you can't have air pressure vacuum. Yes, but how hard is it to understand? Right, where air pressure gets less and 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 less until there's no air pressure at all, i.e. a bloody vacuum. How hard is that to understand? It's mind-boggling. And then there was I'm still linked to videos by flat earthers that are done by Eric Dubay, even though those videos have been debunked about 1,000,000 times. See if I can sort this out. I quite like this. No! I wanted to keep the ISS and screen. Never mind. There are still those that like to link videos, like part of the ones that believe that the moon is translucent from time to time. Because, some parts of it's are washed out in blue. I'm like, oh, for good grief. And some of them that think the moon is flat. Even D. Marble thinks that the moon's a luminary, that it's not a physical object. Even though it quite clearly is. D. Marble, Jeranism just likes to talk about conspiracy. Oh yeah, it's easy for humans to lie. So, Jeranism's sort of standpoint on things is that because people can lie, they're definitely lying about space and the shape of the Earth. That's it. That's his logic. Even though he's had his backside handed to him countless times, and he's been exposed for the fact that his understanding of maths and science is extremely limited. Red's rhetoric has just destroyed him on various occasions. D. Marble, for example, everything has been explained to D. Marble so many times, and it's been proven that everything he brings out is irrelevant, but the guy just doesn't listen. He'd quite happily go into his next video, whenever that comes out, there we are, done. The guy is still proud, like many of the followers have told me as well, he's still proud of that level experiment, the spirit level experiment he did on the plane. It's not really an experiment though, is it? He's still proud of that, like it apparently proved something. And it's incredible to me that just how dense these people are. I try and be polite, and I try and, when I first came across Flat Earth, for me it was just one of those interesting conspiracies, and I wanted to learn more. If you know what I mean. I wanted to learn more about it, no matter how crazy it might be, and I could get interested in it. It would have been one of those, innocent conspiracies where just people don't really believe in it, if you know what I mean, but still do a little bit of research on it and so forth, so on and so forth. But the more and more I looked into Flat Earth, the more and more sort of just ridiculous it became, and just how violent and just hospitable just these individuals really are, and just how they just do not listen. And like I said, most flat earthers nowadays are also believers in, the evolution hoax. A lot of them believe in chemtrails, 9/11, but I'm not going on about 9/11. That's a whole bloody kettle of fish. That's beyond my bloody pay grade, knowing that much. There's so much you can talk about that in one space of time, and I'm not really getting into that sort of thing. And there's other ones, they all think about mud and flood and all this kind of stuff, and conspiracy that, conspiracy this. I'm quite surprised these people sleep at night thinking that they're actually going to wake up. I'm quite surprised they think that sleep is just, a human construct that doesn't actually exist. People, if they really want to look at the sort of knowledge that's gone into our world and the heliocentric model and what we understand about physics, is a fantastic show to watch. And I know it's got Neil deGrasse Tyson in, so they're just going to push that one under the table, under the carpet. It's watch Cosmos, which I can't wait for season 2, by the way. Watch Cosmos. It demonstrates through the centuries the moments of scientific improvement that led to our understandings that we still use to this day. I love there's a YouTuber today, he's a bald chap who's an electrician who knows his stuff about electronics. I think he believes that the universe is electrical in nature. Well, that very well may be, but then he talks about relativity is failing every day, even though it isn't. I've done a few searches and it seems to get stronger every day by the looks of it. And he talks about how the Aries failure and the Michelson-Morley experiment aren't really experiments because they didn't prove anything, even though they are. Experiment's an experiment, dude. Anything can be called an experiment. I can put my two fingers together and move them in such a way to make a noise. That's an experiment to see if it does make noise. An experiment's an experiment, whether you like the outcome of what the experiment was doing or not. That's another thing the flat earthers do, is that they seem to think that if their experiment doesn't show what they want to show, then that means the experiment was wrong. Unfortunately, you can't do that. Like Bob from Globebusters. The guy, after years of banging on about the 15 degree per hour drift that should be sensed by a gyroscope. See, I remember the word eventually. When we've kept on telling them that gyroscopes just aren't sensitive enough, so they get one that's sensitive enough, and then he does the experiment 2 ways, puts it into a container so they can't detect the ether, which is fucking ridiculous. Excuse my language, sorry. And then they still detect the 15 degree per hour drift, but then the guy just immediately discards it all and goes, well, we can't accept that. Well, that's tough shit. It's what you've been banging on for years that we should be able to detect. You finally detect it and then go, nah, wrong. You can't do that. Much like all the laser experiments, laser experiments, basically demarble, when you see lights further than you should, and lasers, higher further than you should in buildings, even though we have told them countless times that the Earth curve calculator isn't, you don't use it to determine how much of an object should be hidden. It doesn't quite work that way, right? But in terms of the laser experiments and the lights, right, is that I've been on to this many times where there could be, let's just say, 5 reasons to why you're seeing what you're seeing. And they've literally discarded 4 and just gone for, we can see them because the Earth's flat, done. Not all the other things, like beam divergence, all this other kind of stuff they can have, like mirages and, refraction, all this kind of thing. No, it's just because the Earth's flat, done. Ignore all the rest. And that's seemingly good enough for them, And that's, no, you can't do that. And it's, then I have the deeply religious flat earthers come to me. Always talk about this. I was talking about one that because I had a dragon in my thumbnail, in my avatar, because I'm Welsh, she was like, oh, you're just a Satan. I was like, get a grip. I'm nearly done with these people because they're not going to learn. They generally are not going to learn. And this is the fact that they're reducing human existence down to a snow globe is what really narks me, to be quite honest with you. But it's like, you know, the ISS, and they, oh, like, look at these photos of the ISS, and they put it through that software that detects squares around them and all this kind of thing. Even though you can put any picture in that software and it can come up with certain things, it's not a reality detector. You know what I mean? And it's just certain things that are so, that flat earthers bring up stuff that's so blatantly obvious doesn't mean what they think it means, but they just roll with it anyway. You know? Like the world record photography, like world record distance, like so many 100 miles, whatever it was. And I explained to the dude that that has been debunked as proof of flat earth, considering how high the photographer is and how much of each mountain in the distance is hidden, that it actually matches up to the hallucinating model. And no, he wouldn't have it. He was like, no, it's proof. You know, even though it's been shown and explained that it doesn't. It's like 8 inches per mile squared. 8 inches per mile squared is only used as a sort of rough approximation. And it's like, and what flat earthers don't listen is like, let's say there was Nathan who did it, and Rant, even Flat Earth, and a couple of others, right? And D-Marble. And the fact they don't get this is astonishing, right? So it's like, let's just say you've got a beach in America, and there's a beach in the UK, and the beach, so they pick a point on the beach that's both a foot high, and they went, oh look, that's a foot high, and that's an elevation of a foot. But because the Earth curves, they assume that as you go up, that one of them is supposed to be at a different altitude, even though it's only measuring the position on the beach as relative to the height above sea level. You know, they seem to think that it should, because the Earth curves, that the altitude's supposed to change. I'm like, really? Are you really that dim? You know? And that you give them proof of the ISS and loads of other planets. Like, I provide those photographs of what other, you know, I can link them to websites of thousands of examples of photographs of Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, you know, Mercury, Venus, that have been done by amateur astronomers with their own kit in their own backyard. And then I still get flat earthers that just go, nah, CGI, it's fake. Oh, it's been manipulated, it's been edited, even though, you know, yes, a photograph nowadays or something done by a telescope, it still has to be processed. You know? And you know that example in like an ISS video where like the astronauts start to blur out and go all weird, and they say that's like proof of CGI, even though that's just the rendering process of the video. Rendering isn't unique to just CGI. When you take a video from your camera's got to render that video and sort of process that video, and stuff like that can happen. It's got nothing to do with CGI, you know. And still flat earthers peddle this crap, you know. And it hurts. It does genuinely concern me that, like, D-Marble, you know, thinks that, you know, oh yeah, it's the endless space that were unimportant. And no, I don't see it that way. When I look at space and the endless amount of space, I look at space as just a never-ending expanse that we can explore. The new planets that could be ours. The new life that we can see. You know? And being a Mass Effect fan, new alien races that we can sleep with. Ignore that. And you know what I mean. But he talks about that, and for some reason, then the Earth being flat and us without a dome, that makes us important. I'm like, D-Marble, walk into the centre of Shanghai, walk into the centre of, you know, a huge city in India, and tell me in that moment that you're important. As a matter of fact, you are meaningless to the millions of people around there. You're not important at all. This thing, it's humans delusion of our own self-importance that we think we are privileged. We have some sort of privileged position just because we're human, just because we're smart. You know? And but yeah, hopefully one day now I can start to have a look at upping my game on the Flat Earth thing and try and get subscribers going again, and see if I can join in on some live streams with other Flat Earthers, not other Flat Earthers, other normal people. You know, like I said, Peaky Blinders and Simon Dan and many others. If they'll have me. If they say no, well then fine. I'll move on and see if I can find some other people. You know, it depends on. Like I said, they are big YouTubers nowadays. I don't want them to drag me down or hurt their viewership base. But I thought it'd be fantastic for me to try and slowly build this channel up, and I can do some different things. Post your comments down below on what else would you like to see me do. Would you like to see me have like a sub channel where I just play games and talk whilst I'm playing games about certain things, and playthroughs, walkthroughs of certain games, you name it? Or I'll pick something else to talk about sport, talk about other conspiracies, genuine research channel where I talk about certain things, stuff like that. Religion isn't one of them, because I know a lot of people personally who are fairly religious in certain terms, but they are lovely people nonetheless. So I tend to not want to go too far into there, otherwise it seems a bit hypocritical on my part. But hey, we'll see how it goes. That was just a little boring conversation on my end with something going on in the background here, but hey. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully one day we can move forward and see what you want. Like I said, maybe I can set up some live streams where I just start talking and people can join in. Like some of my followers might want to join in on a live chat. Could write in on the chat to the side, and we can do it that way. We'll just see how it goes. Hell, some Flat Earthers can even join in, and then watch my temper flare. So that's me for now. Hope to talk to you again. Thank you very much. Goodbye.